This game preview is brought to you by Manscaped's Premium Ultra Soft Boxer Briefs 2.0. Complete with the all-new jewel pouch to protect your stones. Use the promo code SACCITY for 20% off and free worldwide shipping. Manscaped, the perfect tools to protect your jewels.
Let's get into our season previews, and we start things off with the Baltimore Ravens. We are diving into the offense, the defense, what to watch for. We got a little prop bets, we got a little schedule talk, a record prediction, and a preseason power rankings. We start off with the offensive side of the ball for the Ravens. Aaron, we know, we're going to talk about the defense in a few moments, but we know if that defense stays healthy, they are arguably the best defense in the NFL with studs everywhere.
Yeah.
Do you think this offense is what could hold back the Baltimore Ravens from winning a Super Bowl?
Hold them back? No, come on, man. That's just disrespectful to Lamar Jackson, former MVP. We hold them back? No, this offense is potent at what they do. Just because it's not the same things the Kansas City Chiefs do, just because it's not the Buffalo Bills, this is not an offense that's going to hold them back. You know what's going to hold them back? Injuries. Injuries. That's what's going to hold them back. This team is a Super Bowl bound team. They are built to be in the Super Bowl. They can play against the run. They can play against the pass. They can run the football. They have a culture built on winning. It's not about the conversations about Lamar Jackson can't win big games. It can't come back. And I think that's a lot of hoopla. We forget this guy's still a very young quarterback. He hasn't had the requisite weapons that some of these other quarterbacks have had, and yet he's still been super successful with a team that's really been less than some of these other teams. I think this year they're in a very, very good position because not only is the defense healthy, not only is the defense good, but their defense is now, in my opinion, elite in personnel. Whereas even when Lamar was in those playoff games, they weren't elite defensively. They had guys. They had a good defense. I think with this defense, the Kyle Hamiltons of the world, adding in the Marcus Williams, bringing back a Marcus Peters, having these guys, I think Marlon Humphrey, these guys can be elite. And I think that's the difference this year. I don't think this offense is a handicap in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. I didn't mean it there are weaknesses on this. When you look at the defense, it's hard to find weaknesses when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens defense, but we know that there are weaknesses when it comes to this offense. And
you're going to point out one weakness, which is receiver.
Yeah.
Is that because you say we know there's weakness outside of the wide receiver 2 position, because that's really the only weak spot. That's it.
You know how much I love Rashad Bateman.
And to be fair, let's be honest, you're not making that same argument about the Kansas City Chiefs.
No.
Who we're not sure about their wide receiver 2.
That is correct.
You look at it from top to bottom as a roster. This is as complete of a roster as you're going to find in the NFL for the most part. We're not saying about the Packers, who don't even have a wide receiver 1.
I think the difference here, though, that you have to be honest with yourself that with the Baltimore Ravens, it's like you're not concerned with the Chiefs wide receiver 2 is because you have confidence that Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to make whatever wide receiver 2 they have into something special. There is the knock on Lamar.
Disrespectful.
How many wide receiver 2s has Lamar Jackson been able to bring into
How many wide receiver 2s has Patrick Mahomes brought it to be good?
Mecole Hardman wasn't bad.
I'm going to ask the question again. I want you to give me an honest answer.
Do we look at what wide receiver?
How many wide receivers 2 has Aaron Rodgers really produced? Allen Lazard with 500 yards?
That's fair, but those guys are also producing at least one wide receiver that's got some. Marquise Hollywood Brown last year was probably the only one that had the effectiveness of what Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. Mahomes has 2. Mahomes has 2 weapons, 2 star weapons that he has helped be where they are. And I'm not saying Lamar can't do it. I'm not trying to disrespect.
You're digging your grave right now because you just said Hollywood Brown, but yet we're just going to disregard Mark Andrews. He has the same exact setup as Kansas City, a wide receiver and a tight end.
Can you honestly say this? That the Baltimore Ravens can win a Super Bowl with Rashad Bateman as their number one wide receiver, and really nothing else outside of that, and Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson doing what he does.
Put the solo.
Okay.
Yes, the Baltimore Ravens can win a Super Bowl with just Rashad Bateman on the outside and Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson doing what he does. Yes. That's it. I just wanted you to hear that very clear. My faith, solo. Listen, we get so caught up in the skill position world of having 3, 4, we got weapons everywhere. Baltimore's offense is also built and structured in a way where we discount what Lamar Jackson brings with his legs. A guy that ran for 1,200 yards, like 1,200 yards from your quarterback position. And then you don't even mention a J.K. Dobbins, a Gus Edwards. So that dynamic isn't the same dynamic as the Kansas City Chiefs because they don't throw it all over the field. It might not look as sexy, but they led the league in scoring a few years ago. Like, this is a team. Lamar Jackson threw 39 touchdown passes and led the league in passing touchdowns 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever it was. I believe it was 2 years ago. It's funny to me how we discount that because it doesn't look the same. And they got now Rashad Bateman, who, I'm going to be honest, I think Rashad Bateman is actually more talented than Hollywood Brown from an overall wide receiver standpoint.
I tried to tell you all that last season.
He might not be as explosive.
No, I didn't. I think
we knew that. I think we knew Rashad Bateman from a wide receiver talent perspective was more talented as a receiver than a Hollywood Brown. I just think that we aren't giving them enough credit on the offensive side of the football. Now, should they do some different things to allow Lamar Jackson to be unlocked? Yes, that might be. Maybe if the one thing that holds them back, it's Greg Roman. It's the offensive coordinator not allowing Lamar Jackson to use all of his weapons, to be a guy that can throw to his wide receiver too. Because I'm sorry, I still do not believe that he doesn't have the capability of doing it. When he can do it to Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown, why can't he throw to the wide receiver too? To me, it's an offensive schematic thing, but I don't think it really has anything to do with the players on the field. I think if you wanted to point to something that could hold the Baltimore Ravens offense back, it's Greg Roman.
Yeah, I think that is a very valid point. Now, so with the Baltimore Ravens, to unlock the full potential of this offense, you have to let Lamar go out and throw the ball more. Like, that's pretty much it, right?
I think you have to trust Lamar. Whatever that entails, trust him. Just trust him. If he's running, let him run. If he throws, let him throw. That's just, look. Again, I get it. It's not Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't look the same. He doesn't throw for 5,000 yards, but there's so many ways to win in this league. There are so many ways to win in this league. I just think that he gets a bad rap because of the style of play that he has. But all he's done is come in the NFL and win games. That's all he's done. And we constantly want to criticize a quarterback who doesn't win games, but we're not going to give a credit to a quarterback that comes in and does win games. I don't understand that aspect. It doesn't make sense to me. The dude's 37-12 as a starting quarterback. 37-12. Do you know how good that is? Like 37.
I hear it's pretty good.
37-12 is. I don't know, man. I don't know what to say. Like, talk all the stats. The 3,000 doesn't throw for 4,000 yards and blah blah blah. He didn't have a great year last year. I can admit that. He was banged up. He threw more interceptions last year than he ever did.
That's what I think.
One season.
That's what I think a lot of people have going on right now. Like, we're almost forgetting what true, like we talk about all the time in the show. Like the hype for Joe Burrow is kind of just growing and growing and growing. And we, like, people are talking about, is Joe Burrow the best quarterback in the AFC? Like, we're forgetting about how good Lamar Jackson actually is and how special and game changing and game breaking Lamar Jackson can be. So I get what you're saying here. I get what you're saying here. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball now. Obviously last year, just torn apart with injuries to so many guys. Now we get to see those guys come back. Aaron, what player or maybe players are you most excited to see come back or to watch this season for the Baltimore Ravens? Maybe it's not even one of the guys who are coming back from injury.
I think it has to be the secondary. The secondary was so bad last year. Like, I mean, all-time record-breaking bad, and that's not normal for a Baltimore Ravens secondary. So when you lose guys like a Marcus Peters or Marlon Humphrey goes down for a while, or Jimmy Smith was out, or all these guys, right? You gotta fill those holes. I believe Chuck Clark missed time, and it's a lot, right? So you want to see whether they come back number one fully healthy, but I think more so. How do they all build that chemistry together with the new pieces like a Marcus Williams when those guys come in there? So, but when you look top to bottom, the defense is stacked. You bring back a Calais Campbell. You bring back a Jason Owe or Odafe Owe is what he wants to be called. Patrick Queen is there, and he's a beast. I really like Josh Bynes. And then you go to the secondary, and again, it's Marcus Peters, Chuck Clark, Marcus Williams, Marlon Humphrey, and then you add Kyle Fuller. This secondary should be leaps and bounds above last year. And I think that's going to be the biggest difference that I'm looking at. This will change the way the Baltimore Ravens are able to play defense.
Yeah, I mean, and you've seen it from Kyle Hamilton in preseason, going out and making plays. Been one of the best preseason defenders in the NFL this year. There's so much talent on. Oh, I'm solo again.
5,000 yards. 5,000 yards, highest in the league last year. They gave up. The most yards in the league, 5,000 they gave up through the air last year. That is insane. Mainly it's insane for a team that wants to dominate the ball and kill time of possession and run the ball. And a lot of that can be predicated to their offense not having J.K. Dobbins and not having Gus Edwards and not Lamar Jackson not healthy, not being able to stay on the field long enough. But 5,000 yards, that's not going to happen with those dudes I just mentioned on the field this year.
Yeah. I think this team is going to be really special. I think this team, if they all stay healthy, they can be really, really special. What as a whole are you looking out for when you watch the Baltimore Ravens this year?
I know it's going to sound redundant, and maybe this is not a whole lot because I'm super high on the Ravens. It's the health. I think this team is as good of a roster from top to bottom as there is in the NFL. I really do. From every key position. And then you want to point out the weak spots. Okay, maybe it's a wide receiver 2 here. Maybe it's a little bit of defensive line play in the interior side, an older Calais Campbell. But outside of that, where do they have a weak spot? And when everybody's healthy. So I'm just praying that they're healthy, because I think if healthy, this is going to be a team that can be right up there competing with Kansas City, with Buffalo, and with Cincinnati. And I'm going to say Cincinnati and give them the respect because they are the reigning defending AFC champions. Yeah. But I think they're right there with them. And it's all going to come down to, can they stay healthy? Because Harbaugh's a great coach. I believe Lamar Jackson's a great quarterback, however you want to slice it. Throwing the ball, running the ball. I think he's a great football player and can win games. And I think everything else that they have is great. Running backs, defensive line play, especially on the outside, edge rushers, and then secondary and linebacker play is excellent. Can you stay healthy? And that's not really a football schematic analysis. I know it's not much, but that's my breakdown. If they stay healthy, they're going to be one of the better teams in football, because we've seen it before. We've seen this for a number of years now, and I don't think anything changes with Baltimore. In Lamar Jackson's time, 6-1 when he first started that first year, 13-2, 11-4. Last year, they started 8-3. Started 8-3 last year. And then Lamar Jackson, and Lamar was 7-5, or something like that. And then he ended up coming back and trying to play, but he was hurt. But I don't know. I think this team, we're looking at 1 year, and that's the blip year. That's the throwaway year. That's the one-off. Every other year, they've been an elite football team, and it's like we forget that they were an elite football team.
Crazy how time flies, and he makes everyone's on that recency bias. Let's go to the odds for the Baltimore Ravens here, and the prop bets that we have. Over 10.5 wins is the line right now for the Baltimore Ravens at plus 100. Over 6.5 Lamar Jackson rushing touchdowns is also at plus 100. And the Ravens to win the AFC North is at plus 140. So we've got a few good plus options here for the Baltimore Ravens. Which is your lock prop bet, Aaron?
This is funny. Over on every single one of those. I'm going to lock all 3 of them in. I think the Ravens win over 10 games. I think Lamar Jackson has at least 7 rushing touchdowns, and I think the Ravens win the AFC North. Lock, lock, lock. Lock, lock.
Man.
Freaking lock.
I feel like I'm just getting a sense, an early spoiler for what your end of season predictions are going to be for the Baltimore Ravens. Like I feel like this is
lock it up. In the great words of Vince Vaughn, lock it up. No, you lock it up. No, you lock it up. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should. Shame on you.
Watch that movie. Okay, locking everything. Just lock it up. All right. Well, let's go into the schedule for the Baltimore Ravens here. And I mean, their schedule is I don't want to say it's easy. It's an easy schedule, but there is a lot of winnable games for the Baltimore Ravens on this year's schedule. What is the biggest storyline for the Ravens within their schedule? Yesterday we talked about the Jaguars, and you were like, "There's no like defining moments for their schedule." So I thought to myself, okay, let me send you this question of what's the biggest storyline within a schedule for the Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, domination of easy wins. I think they dominate those easy teams, and I think they've always been good at that. But they have a lot of them on the schedule, and I know I'm going to call some teams easy, but I do think when you compare them to Baltimore, they are easy. The Jets, the Patriots, the Giants, the Browns early without Deshaun, Carolina, Jacksonville, Pittsburgh. I think they're dominating those games. I think they're better than those teams. I don't think they're close. And then Baltimore is going to put up fights with really good teams and great teams, and they're going to win some of those games. And I think that's how they stack their wins. To me, Baltimore is one of those teams that it really doesn't matter about the regular season, barring health, that you want to see who they match up with in the playoffs and how they approach that playoff game. So for me, it's dominate those winnable games. Show that, hey, we're not messing around. We're not just going to get by. We are going to dominate you like they did a couple of years ago when Lamar was the MVP. And then this time capitalize on that domination early by winning playoff games late. And I think that's really what their season has to be about. They have to show to be dominant. It can't just be all talk. They've got to show it.
Yeah, can't be slipping. I mean, they finished last in the AFC North last year, so it's like they have that last place schedule, and they're going to be able to have the chance to just beat up on some I shouldn't say pretty bad teams, but beat up on the weaker teams that are definitely below where the Baltimore Ravens are. What is your record prediction for the Ravens? Danny notebook.
My record prediction for the Baltimore Ravens is 12-5. I have them at 12-5. They are my third record, I guess. Third best record in football this year. Mainly because I have them starting really hot like they normally do. I have them going 6-1 before falling at Tampa and at New Orleans. I think those are two tough games on the road. And then they get that bye week. But when they come back from that bye week, I think there's a lot of winnable games there. The only tough game is Denver, and it's in Baltimore. I have them winning 4, 5, 6 of their next 7 before falling to Cincinnati that last game of the season. I don't think it matters much, though. 12-5. I have them losing to Buffalo, Tampa, New Orleans, Cleveland once late in the season, and Cincinnati.
So you have them sweeping the Steelers.
I do. I don't think the Steelers are good enough with the young quarterbacks or Mitchell Trubisky. I know that's always a rivalry, but I just don't think the quarterback play is going to be enough for them.
I'm wanting to look up when the last time the Ravens swept the Pittsburgh Steelers in the season like that.
I'm sure it's been recent.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to look that up. Someone in the chat, someone in the comments. Yeah, you go ahead and look that up. I got it right here.
I got it right here. Baltimore. Oh, who am I looking at? This is the Pittsburgh series. So
yeah,
Pittsburgh in 2019.
So they swept the Steelers in 2019.
2019, Baltimore beat them 28-10 and beat them 26-23 in overtime.
Well, there you go. I'm glad.
And by the way, fun fact, that was also the year Lamar Jackson won MVP and was first team All-Pro.
Ooh. So maybe that's a sign. Maybe that's a sign. I also have them going 12-5. My losses for the Baltimore Ravens this year fall to the Bills. I think they lose to the Bucks. I think they lose to the Browns when Deshaun Watson comes back. And I think they lose the final 2 games of the season to the Steelers and the Bengals. I do think that they have those split type of games. Really, actually, that actually might change. I think Baltimore wins their home game at the end of the season against Pittsburgh and loses their road game. They split those. But 12-5 is right where I have them. And it's funny, you go back and look at the prop bets, over 10.5 wins is at plus 100. That's almost easy money for us who took them at 12 wins. So that's kind of
all easy money, man. Bet on Baltimore. Instead of bet on black, bet on Baltimore.
Aaron, it's time. You want the smoke? You got the smoke. Where do the Baltimore Ravens fall in the power rankings?
Yeah, I ain't scared. All right, listen. I'm gonna preface this by saying, don't come at me in the comments. Okay. This is not a decision. This is not a consensus. I know this. This is not where AJ would put them. This is not where Vincent Milani would put them. And Dylan, who cares what Dylan wants? He's somewhere doing whatever.
Big time.
This is where Aaron is putting them because the spot I had him in was taken already. So we moved him up. The Baltimore Ravens are number 2. And yes, I said it. They're number 2. And I get it. They didn't make the playoffs last year. But I don't care. I don't want to hear none of that. Every year there's a team that doesn't make the playoffs and then goes on to do big things. Hey, Tampa Bay didn't make the playoffs, and they won a Super Bowl when Tom Brady got there. You went Baltimore with that talent. You bring that talent back, and you add to it, getting guys like Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams. You get J.K. Dobbins back. Rashad Bateman's now in year 2 and an extremely talented guy. Mark Andrews is arguably the best tight end in football, and Lamar Jackson is back in a contract year trying to prove that he's worth a $50 million deal. Give me that all day long. The Baltimore Ravens are number 2 on the Sac City preseason power rankings.
I am.
Yes, I know you wanted to put some Rams there or something like that.
So to me, when we were going through the power rankings,
you didn't have that argument with Cincinnati Bengals.
I don't even remember where we had. We don't even have the Bengals.
But my point is, when we were discussing this consensus ranking, your words were these teams have to be 1 and 2. Why? Because they won last year?
In my head, it was Buffalo and Los Angeles at 1 and 2.
Why?
And I guess we're gonna have to find out when we talk the Bills and when we talk the Rams, because that's gonna be that is the game. That's the kickoff game. When push comes to shove, we'll have it on here. But yeah, so the Baltimore Ravens at number 2. Aaron said he wants a smoke, so come at him in the comments. Let him know what you think.
You tell me why not. You give me a reason as to why not, and we can have that debate.
Most likely, this Ravens fans watching this video, so they're like, "Hell yeah, brother!"
And if you're somebody that doesn't agree with me, and you tell me it's because Lamar Jackson can't win, and your comments are baseless, don't expect a response. Although I'll give you one probably because I like to argue, but don't expect one because those are baseless comments. The man's 37-12 as an NFL starter. Better records than most of the guys that you're going to say that they're better than.
But he can't pass. He can't pass the ball. He can't throw.
Doesn't need to. Doesn't need to pass if you win games. All I care is that you win games.
It's true.
That's it. That's all that matters.